Just a quick heads up, the following video will contain spoilers for all the Toy Story movies. If you want to experience them beforehand, the entire Toy Story franchise is streaming on Disney Plus. That includes all the movies, shorts, and TV specials. As an alternative, you can watch these movies on YouTube or Blu-ray. Anyways, thank you all so much for listening and enjoy today's video. In recent years, Disney has not had the best reputation when it came to the public. One person to thank for this is the former CEO of the company, Bob Chapek. During his time as CEO, lovely things happened, such as releasing 2 movies on a day-to-date release, or how about his legendary "Don't Say Gay" statement last year. Oh, and who can forget the time he sparked uproar inside and outside the company by dismissing animation as being only a kid's thing, even though you are the head of a company that is known for making some of the most iconic films in that industry. So yeah, I think it's clear that he was not really the brightest person when it came to that role, which would probably explain why most people felt relief when it was announced that he was fired and replaced by the one and only Bob Iger. Yep, he is confirmed to be the Alpha Bob, putting every other one of his kind to shame. He will surely be the one to save this company and restore it to its former glory. So I guess new CEO doesn't always mean everything gets better, as Disney's backlash only continues to snowball as we speak for many different reasons. However, in February of this year, things got bad. To reconstruct the damage done by Chapek and save $5.5 billion, Iger ultimately made the decision to lay off 7,000 employees and capitalize on select billion-dollar properties. So on February 8th, 2023, 3 sequels were announced. First off, we have Zootopia 2 coming our way, which generally gained a positive reputation among fans, especially when you consider how great the world building in the first movie was. We can get more of an insight into areas that were not explored yet, plus we'll finally get to see Judy and Nick face new conflicts as an official police duo. We are also getting Frozen 3, which is going to be a part 1 to a 2-part story. Yes, we have another Across the Spider-Verse type deal on our hands. I know a lot of you consider it cool to hate Frozen because of how oversaturated the marketing is, but as for me, I kind of have an open mind for this one. Yeah, I thought the first movie was just good and nothing special, and Frozen 2 was very underwhelming for me, but that most likely was because the movie was rushed. So if the production team actually gets all of the time they need to make this film, we could actually have a pretty good movie. Heck, maybe the best one in the franchise so far. With all of that said, there was also another sequel announced that almost everyone agrees is totally unnecessary. Toy Story 5.
Oh, brother, this guy.
Toy Story is a series that needs no introduction. I know what it is, you know what it is, and we have all seen all 4 of the current movies. The Toy Story films are often regarded as not just some of the greatest animated films of all time, but some of the greatest movies of all time, period. Every single movie just lands when it comes to critical response in their own unique way. The first movie in particular was revolutionary for its time, as it was the first ever fully CGI animated film, which not only kickstarted a very successful and respectable studio, but it would forever change the style of most animated movies we would see from that point forward. Not just that, but the film receives raging amount of praise from critics for its voice acting, visuals, score, and most importantly, very mature storytelling, which is a major reason as to why many, including myself, consider this film to be a timeless classic. Of course, with this much critical acclaim topped with raking in over $350 million upon its release in 1995, they of course made sequels. Toy Story 2 was released in 1999 with around the same amount, if not more, praise than the first movie. Even to this day, Toy Story 2 is not only regarded as the best Toy Story movie, but a major example of just how to make a sequel in general. And just like the first movie, it was incredibly successful in the box office, becoming the third highest grossing film of 1999, right behind Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace and The Sixth Sense. A little over a decade later, we would get Toy Story 3, which would not only be the highest grossing animated film of all time, for 3 years that is, but would also be considered by most fans to be the definitive ending of the franchise, and it totally makes sense as to why that is. The entire franchise leading up to this entry shows how loyal the toys are to Andy, and him leaving for college and donating them seems like there is nothing more for the franchise to do. Surely if a fourth movie happened, it would jump the shark and go against everything the characters learned in their story arcs, and against all odds, a fourth movie happened, and most fans liked it, but some did not. To some extent, I can sort of understand why some people were not a fan of this entry. Yes, it was unnecessary, Buzz is mostly out of character, and the ending is a topic to lead to some pretty heated debates, where Woody makes a decision to leave some of his lifelong friends and Bonnie behind, finding new purpose in life and helping others discover where they truly belong. I can understand some people being upset with this decision, and the misunderstanding that goes against everything Woody learned in the previous films, but I think what most people tend to forget is that Bonnie is different from Andy, meaning she is going to have different feelings than him, especially when you consider their age gap. You really think Andy is going to be super upset over Bonnie losing a toy he donated to her? He's a college student, for goodness sake, and that would portray him as immature if that was truly the case. I also think these people forget that Woody's purpose in all four of these movies is written to grow as a person in new ways. The first movie portrayed his struggles in overcoming jealousy. The second movie showed him making tough decisions on whether he should be immortalized by being on display at a museum for the rest of his life, or focus on the people who care about him right now. The third movie shows him in denial with the fact that it is time to let go of said person who cares about him his whole life. And the fourth movie shows him finding a new purpose in life after learning that he is not fit to repeat the same cycle that he did with Andy. Plus, this movie gave us more of an insight on Woody and Bo Peep's relationship, especially since the latter was absent from the previous film. And I know that this is a hot take, but the ending was honestly more impactful than the third movie. Yes, the ending to the third movie is perfect, as it wraps up Andy's story perfectly, and Woody's so long partner chokes me up every time I think about it. But if you really think about who truly stuck with Woody thick and thin throughout the course of the franchise, it was his friends. They were characters that Woody built off of in the first three films. He has stated multiple times that they were all a family, which is the core factor to what makes their parting so emotional, because in some way, it feels like it parallels 3's ending. What I mean by that is that not only did the toys take care of Andy his whole life, but Woody as well, which all built up to both of them finding their purpose in life, feeling like a satisfying conclusion to both character arcs. Or so we thought, because even after they seemingly ended the franchise twice, they're still making a fifth movie. And let's just say, it got a reaction, and not a good one. When this was announced earlier this year, I was totally gonna make a video explaining why it was unnecessary, but then I saw a ton of people beat me to it, and for months, I decided if making a video on this topic was even a good idea at all. But recently, I finally made a decision to make a video on Toy Story 5, but add a twist. Instead of making a video ranting about how unnecessary it is, I wanted to talk about a few ideas I had in mind on how the movie could possibly work. I will be heavily discussing stuff such as characters, stories, and what good direction Pixar can take with them. Let's start by addressing the elephant in the room. What can the writers do with Woody? Woody is the heart and soul of the franchise, as every movie revolves around him growing as a person, with his character arc seemingly concluding in the fourth movie as he found a new purpose in life. so that will obviously leave fans questioning what more could they possibly do with his character arc. In most cases, you would probably think there isn't anything left to do. However, this is probably the cleverest path they can go down. Remember when I said that characters Woody built off of were his friends, and even mentioned that he would constantly refer to them as his family? Well, in this movie, we can maybe see him have a few moments where he misses Buzz and the rest of the gang, while trying to get used to his new lifestyle. On top of that, we can also see him face a new struggle in life that he would have a hard time handling if it weren't for the help of Buzz. So he would ultimately try and face it on his own, without any supportive guidance from his best friend. This moment would be great for his character, and add a new layer of strength to his writing as well, giving him more independence as an individual. As for Buzz and the rest of the gang, I was thinking they can have a sort of similar conflict with Woody, where they are all trying to get used to life without him. However, we can see someone like Jessie trying to have some leadership over the rest of the gang, since Woody passed his badge over to her. We can have a scene where Jessie is stuck in a small and dark space. However, she makes it out with no fear whatsoever, displaying her growth from Toy Story 2 and Toy Story of Terror. As for Buzz, it's a little harder to determine because his role in Toy Story 4 was pretty underwhelming. He just didn't serve much purpose in the plot of that film, and there would be rare moments where he came across as a total idiot. As for the fifth movie, one way they can fix him is having him give some guidance to a character such as Jessie or Forky, just like he did with Woody. He can be the character they built off of, making him have actual purpose again. Plus, we can hopefully get some good action scenes like in the second and third movie, and not just have him crash into something like he did in the fourth movie, ruining the excitement. This next one may just come off as a surprise, but I would like to see Forky have a character arc. Being that he is Bonnie's favorite toy, I would love to see him have a sort of parallel character arc to Woody, and that can come from loyalty or struggling to accept letting go when Bonnie reaches a certain age. This would give the character more depth, and it would probably make audiences care about him more as a character instead of him just being comic relief. However, if the writers really want to surprise their audience, they can make a few of the characters want to find their own individual purpose, just like Woody did. The reason I say a few and not all of them is because I think there could be too many plots in one movie and would most likely make it a mess. That's why they should give it to characters who serve more major roles in the franchise, like the three I mentioned earlier, because give them a close, if not just as well written character arcs, just like Woody always had. I'm not saying the other characters like Slinky and Rex shouldn't have roles, but they are not on the same tier of importance as the ones I just mentioned. Despite this franchise being called Toy Story, one of its biggest and most important factors are the human characters, aka the toy owners, Andy in the first three films, and Bonnie in the TV specials, Toy Story Toon Shorts, and the fourth movie. Despite the franchise being 28 years old, all four of the movies are looked back upon super fondly, and are still talked about a ton to this very day. And since Andy was the major human in almost 75% of the franchise, he is the one people associate the toys with the most. However, I am not 100% sure that Andy will be in the fifth movie, given his absence from the fourth. Yes, he was in the opening scene, but that was just a flashback. If he was to be in the fifth movie, I feel like the best thing they can do with him is have him be much older than he was in the third movie. They can show him tackling a full-time job based on his college major. On top of that, he is also married and has a kid around the same age as him in the first movie. As for Bonnie, we could see her as a teenager or a young adult, and is now dealing with stuff like college, and has grown out of playing with her toys. However, just like Andy at that age, she still has a soft spot for them, and wants to give them a new home where a kid will care for them. So she boxes them all up and brings them to a carnival where she can donate them to a game booth. However, she also runs into Andy, who has taken his family to the carnival, and he sees all his old toys about to be donated, and this is where both plots can come into full swing, as Andy suddenly finds Woody and Bo Peep, the same exact ones from his childhood. After this, both families can settle for a little hangout, where Andy's kid gets to play with all of Bonnie and Andy's toys. This would not only parallel Andy's childhood, but it would lead to a heartwarming reunion with Woody and the rest of the gang after so many years. If this were truly the final Toy Story movie, it would be a satisfying ending for sure. As for official news regarding Toy Story 5, we don't have too many yet, but I'll still talk about the ones we have at least right now. First off, Chief Executive of Pixar Pete Docter stated that Toy Story 5 will have stuff that fans have never seen before. Not only that, but the voices of Woody and Buzz respectively, Tom Hanks and Tim Allen, have been approached to return in the film, and it will be a treat if they do so. Woody and Buzz are also confirmed to be returning in this movie, which makes sense considering they are basically the main characters of the franchise. Some people may say that doesn't make sense considering the ending of the fourth movie. However, Tim Allen made some statements that may give you more of a positive viewpoint on this. By acknowledging fan criticism and saying the film's writers specifically said it's a story they wanted to tell, and that this movie would not happen if they didn't get it right. On top of that, Tim Allen said that he wants Toy Story 5 to follow adult Andy, trying to find and reunite all his old toys for his child, which is something similar to my prediction. If they do choose to go in this direction for the plot and do it right, we could have another Toy Story 4 situation where everyone thinks the movie is unnecessary at first, but the film turns out to do something new for the franchise, making it a worthy addition overall. Does that mean Toy Story 6 will be okay in 2029? Well... Even after all that I have stated, I am still a little bit skeptical on Toy Story 5, but I will still be going into it with an open mind. Pixar is always full of surprises. They may have made some underwhelming sequels and original movies for sure, but they have honestly made more rights than wrongs. Say what you want about Pixar being bland nowadays and such, but I think they still have a lot left in them. The team working on this movie does state that this is a story they want to tell, which is what you can say about their movies in both their classic and modern catalog. I do believe that there is potential for Toy Story 5 having the same place in everyone's hearts just like the previous films. Toy Story is not just my favorite Pixar franchise, but one of my favorite film franchises in general, and I am trying my best to stay positive that the fifth movie will keep my love for this franchise alive. Before we end this video, I want to acknowledge that this will not be my last time making a video like this, as Pete Docter also stated that any Pixar sequel is fair game, meaning we could get stuff such as Cars 4, or Finding Marlin, or Ratatouille. Get it? Because it's a... However, my next video on a topic like this will not be Pixar related, as we will be looking at an upcoming 5th entry on a certain green ogre instead.